Hi, first grade.
Hello, first grade.
This is Mrs. Kunda.
And Mr. DeStefano.
And we are here with our 6th class dojo listen and learn lesson.
Yeah, so welcome. We're very happy that you're here listening to the story with us and participating in the activities. And Mrs. Kunda, I have heard from a few of you that let us know that you're with us listening to these stories, so welcome again, and we're glad you're here.
Yeah, and we've also loved seeing your journal entries. Thank you so much for sharing them with us. I feel like our first graders have so many cool things to say about the stories. I didn't even think about Mr. DeStefano.
Wow, that's great. It's so great that they're sharing, and it's so difficult being here teaching a lesson without students. So
yeah.
we miss having you here, so we're glad that you're watching and joining the lesson with us this way.
Yeah, we certainly, I don't know if you can see in the background, but there's a little bit, you can see our the carpet, and it is an empty carpet, so it's not the same without you, first grade. Speaking of first grade, welcome to Miss B and Miss Parada's class that's watching, and Miss Sullivan's class that's watching.
And today we're going back to our Fairytales unit, or we're continuing in our Fairytales unit. Today we're going to read a story that many of you have probably heard called Jack and the Beanstalk. And it's a 2-part lesson, so we're going to read part, just like the Frog Prince. We're going to have part of the lesson today and then part of the lesson in a few days. So remember what we learned about fairy tales, that there's some sort of magic in fairy tales, that they have a happy ending, that there's events or things that in the story that could not happen in real life, and that there's a lesson to be learned. So think about all those things. I'm kind of wondering if we'll have a happy ending today because we're only getting the first part of the story.
Yeah.
So we might have to wait for part 2 for that happy ending, but we'll see.
Very well might. If I remember correctly, in the Frog Prince, we had a bit of a cliffhanger. So I don't know. Hopefully we don't have a cliffhanger this time. I couldn't wait to hear the ending.
Right, but that's okay. They'll turn into the next lesson to find out what happens.
So true. So true.
And so I want to remind you that fairy tales are fiction, which means that they are stories that are not real or fake.
They are made up.
And just like all fiction stories, they have characters, which are people or animals in the story. So you can maybe you can talk about that with your families. Who are the characters in the story? What's the setting? Setting means where does the story happen? Does it happen in school? Does it happen on a farm? Does it happen outside on the playground? Where does the story happen? Sometimes there's more than one setting for a story too.
It'll be good to remember for this story.
And there's also a problem, which means something's wrong in the story.
Something that needs to be solved.
Which is this, and then there's the solution, which is how we solve that problem. So those are some things you can talk about with your family members as you're listening to the story or try to figure out.
All right, so now we're just going to hop into some vocabulary. We're not going to review the previous vocabulary because, that's all saved on video. So you can go back to our other links that are on Class Dojo if you want to review the past vocabulary. And, you just watch those first 5 minutes. That's where usually
in
we
fact,
have
if they
vocab.
go to the last story, trying to remember what story we read last.
The Frog Prince.
The Frog Prince Part 2.
Yes.
If you go and replay the first few minutes of that, you'll have all the vocabulary we did for the first part of the unit, and you can just add these words to the end.
That is such a good thing to remember. All right, first grade. So we're going to start with the new vocabulary that's going on with this story. So the first word, I'm just going to make sure you can see it on camera. The first word is attic. And an attic is a room at the top of a house in the space that's underneath the roof. So typically this is a space where you wouldn't have a bedroom. Typically attics are they're too small to make a bedroom, but they're just enough room to place things in there that you might not use all the time. Like you might place like holiday decorations in there. You might place old toys you don't play with in there anymore. But for attic, I'd like to see you guys put the symbol for a house over your head. Show us your attic.
Okay, so great, Mrs. Kanda. Our next word is precious. So something that is precious is valuable or very special. So you are very precious to your parents. You're very special to them, and your parents, I'm sure, are precious. I'm sure your parents are very precious to you too. So for precious, you might want to just put your hand next to your heart, because something that is precious to you, you really care about a lot.
It's really dear to your heart.
Okay.
All right, the next word is fierce. And the word fierce means something that's very strong and very dangerous. So you might say that a lion is fierce because they have sharp claws and they growl. So speaking of that, I want you to put out your sharp claws. Put out your sharp claws. I want you to growl. Grrr. Okay, show us fierce.
Okay, so ringing. Oh, let me show you the word. Ringing. Notice it's got that ing at the end. It actually has two ings in that word. When you're ringing something, you're twisting hard with both hands, kind of like, there we go, kind of like this. So when you're at home, I'm sure you or your parents have used a washcloth or a sponge, and you've kind of used your hands to wring it out, maybe a towel, something like that.
All right, and our last vocabulary word is tremble. So to tremble is to shake from cold or fear. So tremble is what you do if it's really, really cold outside and maybe you don't have a coat on. You might start to shiver, or that's tremble. So I want you to shake. Pretend you're outside. Pretend it's really cold outside and tremble. All right, that's it for the vocab.
I think, Mrs. Kunda, I think it's your turn to read today.
It is my turn to read. Before we start reading, though, I just want to show today's journal entry because I really want you to think about this as we're reading through the story. Today's journal entry is, do you think Jack made a good trade? So Jack is one of our characters in today's story, and he's obviously going to make some kind of trade, and we want to know if you think he made a good trade. So keep that in mind as we're reading today.
All right.
All right. So we are starting Jack and the Beanstalk, Part 1. Once upon a time, there was a poor widow. A widow is a woman whose husband passed away, who had an only son named Jack and a cow named Milky White.
Let's think about that, Mrs. Kunda. Do you think Milky White was a good name for the cow?
I don't know, Mr. Stefano, because the cow is brown.
But then again, the cow does make
Milk. Oh, so that might be where they're getting the name Milky White.
Yeah, what color is milk? White.
White, yeah. That's a cute name. All they had to live on was the milk the cow gave them every morning, which they carried to the market and sold. But one morning, Milky White gave no milk.
It sounds like something's wrong there. Is that word for something wrong, is that setting?
No, I think it might be problem.
That's right, Mrs. Kunda. So a problem is what's wrong in the story.
Oh, Jack, said the poor widow, wringing her hands. Show us ringing. We have nothing to eat and no money. We must sell poor Milky White. Cheer up, mother, said Jack. It's market day today. I'll sell Milky White, then we'll be better off. You'll see.
So why are they selling Milky White?
Well, if you said that Milky White isn't giving any more milk, then you are correct. And if you remember back in the beginning of the story, all they had to live on was that milk. So they would probably drink the milk themselves and sell the milk so that they could survive. But if she's not making any milk anymore, they can't survive.
And so now I think if they sell the cow, then they'll be able to at least have some money from the amount that they paid to sell the cow.
Yeah, perhaps they could buy another cow. They could buy some food so they can survive. Let's see what they end up doing. So Jack took the cow and started down the road. He had not gone far when he met an unfamiliar old man. The old man said, "Good morning, Jack." "Good morning to you," said Jack, and he wondered how this old man knew his name. "Well, Jack, where are you off to?" said the man. "I'm going to market to sell our cow there." "Oh, yes, you look just the sort of fellow to sell a cow," said the man. "Now, I wonder," he asked Jack, "do you know how many beans makes 5? Jack thought this was a strange question, but he answered anyway. "Well, 2 beans in each hand and 1 bean in your mouth. That makes 5.
So 2 plus 2.
Here, I'll move so you can.
2 plus 2 plus 1 in your mouth makes 5.
"Right you are," said the old man. And then, pulling something out of his pocket, he said, "And here they are." He held out 5 very unusual beans. "Now, because you are such a smart fellow," he said to Jack, "I will trade you these beans for your cow."
So could we just stop there for a
Yeah.
second, Mrs. Kanda? So I just wanted to, let's take a look at our journal question. So this might be a time to think about that.
Yeah.
Do you think Jack made a good trade? You might even want to pause this and maybe do your journal entry now, and then listen to the rest of the story, and then see if what you wrote stays the same or if it changes.
Yeah. Because as of right now, I don't know, Mr. Stefano, that's a pretty big cow, and that's a small handful of beans. I don't know if I think I don't know if I would like that trade, but maybe some people would. If you like beans, I suppose that's a good trade.
Yeah, I'd be interested to know what all of our friends listening at home think.
So would I. Well now, said Jack, that would be a nice trade for you. Ah, but you don't know what kind of beans these are, said the man. If you plant them tonight, then by morning they will grow right up to the sky. Really? Said Jack, who was beginning to get interested. Yes, said the man. And if it doesn't turn out to be true, then you can have your cow back. Well, all right then, said Jack. He gave the man the cow, took the beans, and went home.
So, Mrs. Kunda, if someone told you that if you bought these beans and it would grow right into the sky, what would you think?
I would probably think they were trying to trick me, Mr. Stefano, because it just doesn't sound like something that could really happen. That sounds to me like magic.
Yeah, so I wonder if our friends at home, would you believe the man if you were Jack? Would you have believed the man? The one part of the story that I kind of thought was interesting, though, that the man did say that, if that didn't turn out to be true, he can go give the cow back. So I guess he has kind of a little guarantee there that, if the beans don't work, he can trade back.
But I mean, I'm almost wondering, because Jack doesn't really know this old man, so I'm wondering if Jack were to try and go back to the man if it doesn't work, would he be able to find him?
Yeah, that's a good point, Mrs. Kunda. He could be trying to trick him.
He could really be trying to trick him. Well, I guess we're just going to have to find out. All right. Jack, are you back already? Said his mother. I see you've sold Milky White. How much did you get for her?
Hang on, Mrs. Kanda. So, friends at home, what do you think? How do you think Mom is going to react when he finds out that Jack traded the cow for some beans? Do you think she'll be happy, or do you think she'll be sad, and why? So maybe you can think about that. If you're watching this with someone, maybe you could tell whoever you might be watching this video with.
Yeah, tell them. What do you think? Is Mom going to be happy, or is she going to be sad?
Be sure to tell them why.
Yeah, or is she going to be angry? It could be any one of those. All right, now that you've thought, let's go right back into this and find out. Oh, Mother, you'll never guess, said Jack. Oh, you good boy, said his mother. Did you get 5 or 10? Maybe even no. It can't be. 20? I told you that you couldn't guess, said Jack. Then reaching into his pocket, he said, see here, Mother, I've got 5. 5 beans. You plant them, and then overnight they... What? Cried his mother. Beans? You gave away my Milky White for beans? How could you be such a fool? Off to bed with you and no supper. And as for your precious beans, show us precious. Here they go, out the window.
So, how did Mom feel about the trade? Did she think it was a good trade? Thinking about our journal entry again, where you're going to think, did Jack made a good trade or not? What about the mom? Do you think the mom thinks that Jack made a good trade?
I don't know. If I were you, I'd probably go back in the story and think about the fact that she threw those beans out the window. I don't typically throw things out the window that I enjoy or I think are precious.
Yeah, it sounded like she was kind of yelling at him too. What? Beans? You gave away my Milky White for beans?
She also called Jack a fool.
Yeah, those are all details from the text that let us know that Mom is not too happy about this.
Yeah, Mom doesn't
trade.
sound like she's very happy about this. Would your mom be happy? Think about that. So Jack went to his little attic room. Where does Jack live? If you said the attic, you're correct. If you remember from the beginning, we were talking about attics. Attics are very small, so Jack lives in a very small area. Into his little attic room without dinner, where he flopped down and finally fell asleep. All right, so we want you to think about those beans. The old man said they were going to grow. Do you think that happened?
Because I just showed them the picture as you were asking the question.
Well, as you can tell with the picture. But let's find out anyway. When he woke up, the room looked funny. The sun was shining into part of it, but the rest was all dark and shady. He jumped up and he went to the window. And what do you think he saw? Why, the beans his mother had thrown out the window had landed in the garden, and overnight they had sprung up into an enormous beanstalk, which went up and up and up till it reached the sky. So the old man had been telling the truth. Oh my goodness. I wonder what he's going to do with a beanstalk that goes up to the sky, Mr. Stefano.
I don't know. What would you do, friends listening at home?
Yeah, what would you do if you had this large beanstalk just growing out of your garden? Oh, let's see what he does. The beanstalk grew right up to Jack's window. All he had to do was step out onto it and then start climbing it like a ladder.
Let's stop there for a second, Mrs. Condo. So, friends listening at home, do you think? What do you think about Jack's decision there to climb the beanstalk? Do you think that was a good idea, or a bad idea? Why or why not?
It sounds pretty high up. I don't know if my family would be okay with me climbing something that high up.
Yeah, I know you might fall down. You don't know what might be at the top of it.
Yeah, you don't know. Let's find out. So Jack climbed and he climbed and he climbed until at last he reached the sky. I don't know if my family would be okay with me climbing up to reach the sky. And when he got there, he saw a long, straight road. He followed the road until he came to a great, big, tall house. And on the doorstep, there was a great, big, tall woman. At this point, I think I'd go back down the beanstalk. "Good morning, man," said Jack, quite politely. "Could you be so kind as to give me some breakfast?" "Oh, so you want breakfast," said the great big tall woman. "Well, you'll be breakfast if you don't get out of here. My husband is a fierce giant, and there's nothing he likes better than a nice cooked boy on buttered toast. You'd better get going, for he'll be coming soon." "Oh, please, ma'am," said Jack. "I haven't eaten since yesterday, really, truly." Now I want to stop right there. Does it look like you could find a person who's that tall? It looks like his that this woman he's running into, she is also a giant. Is that real or is that make-believe?
So if you said that that's something that could not happen in real life, you're correct.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to climb up on a beanstalk and find giants. Well, the giant's wife wasn't so bad after all. So she took Jack into the kitchen and gave him a chunk of bread and cheese and a jug of milk. But Jack hadn't finished half these when, thump, 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 the whole house began to tremble with the noise of someone coming. Someone very big.
Remember that word tremble means shaking. I wonder why the
I wonder why the house is shaking.
Do you get a clue from the picture?
So actually, our story stops right here. And I wanted, before we do anything, just kind of hop back into that journal entry. And I want you to think about this. Because if you can kind of tell through the window, it looks like there's someone not so friendly coming. So do you think, after everything that's just happened, do you think Jack made a good trade? Beans for cow. Keep that in mind.
And why or why not?
Yeah, and tell us, using details from the text if you can. That'd be awesome. Do you want to start with the first question, Mr. D?
Sure.
Deal.
Why do you think the man traded the beans for the cow?
There's a lot of reasons he could trade the beans for the cow. Maybe he knew what it was going to do. Maybe he kind of, wanted to see if someone would actually climb up the beanstalk and find out what was up there for him. Mm-hmm. That could be why.
Maybe he likes animals, and maybe he has a farm, and he just wanted to have the cow come and live on his farm with him.
Maybe he really was trying to trick Jack, because he claimed that it would grow a beanstalk up to the sky, but maybe he really didn't believe that and was just trying to, trick Jack into, trading him for a cow.
Yeah, maybe the fact that the beanstalk actually grew is part of the magic.
Yeah, that could be it. What does Jack's mother do when she hears about this trade?
Oh, I think she was angry. She threw those beans out the window and sent Jack to his attic room without any supper.
Yeah, my goodness. Sounds like he got in trouble. Do you think that she thinks those beans are precious, Mr. Stefano?
I don't think so. I don't think she'd be throwing them out the window if she thought they were precious. So when Jack got up the next morning, what did he discover, Mrs. Condon?
Well, in that spot where his mother threw those beans, a very large beanstalk had grown all the way up to the sky, which sounds pretty magical to me. Would a plant really grow this fast, Mr. Stefano? Or is this like a fantasy?
This is a fantasy or something that is not real or magic, because if you've ever tried to grow a plant before, it takes several days for the plant just to grow a little bit. It does not grow like right to the sky overnight.
So could a person really climb a beanstalk that tall?
No, if this story were real, he probably would have fallen down. The
Yeah.
beanstalk would have broken. It wouldn't be able to support his weight.
And as you get higher up into the sky, it's very difficult to breathe. There's a lot less oxygen up there.
So who does Jack meet after he climbs the beanstalk?
He meets a very tall woman who's married to a fierce giant.
And how does this part of the fairy tale end?
Well, it looks like Jack has gotten breakfast from this woman, and the house is beginning to tremble with some noise of someone very big coming to this house. So it sounds like her giant husband is coming home.
All right, so let's talk about our characteristics of fairy tales before we close up. So think about, was there magic in this story?
It sounded like, that beanstalk growing, Mr. Stefano, that was pretty magical. And the fact that, that Jack was even able to climb up so high and, find this giant and the giant's home, it sounds pretty magical to me.
Was there a happy ending?
Well, the story isn't done, and you know what? I feel like it left us off on another cliffhanger.
Yeah, so there's not a happy ending yet. So hopefully when we read part 2, we'll find that happy ending. And what could not happen in real life?
I think magical beans could just not happen in real life. As
Yeah.
much as I wish there'd be some magical beans that could grow us a large beanstalk, I don't think that's real life.
And I also think giants living in a house in the clouds,
Yeah.
that's not,
No,
that
that's
could
not
happen
real
in real
life.
life. Okay. And I don't know if we've gotten to the lesson yet.
I suppose a good lesson could be to listen to your mother, or listen to your parents, because
Yeah.
his mother wanted him to, go to the marketplace and trade Milky White. And he's old enough, I think, to understand that mom was looking for money because they used the cow to survive. So I think that could be a good lesson because, how's this family going to survive now?
Yeah, that's really good thinking, Mrs. Konda.
Well, all right, first grade, that concludes our 6th Listen and Learn Class Dojo lesson. Make sure to do the journal entry for us and send it to us. You can send it in a picture, you can send it in a video, you can even just message down in the comments on Dojo,
Yeah,
not the ones on YouTube.
You can type it in if you want to. On
Yeah,
Dojo.
type it in on Dojo and just let us know. What do you think, do you think that Jack made a good trade? All right, we'd love to hear about it. We love hearing your answers. And most of all, we love hearing from you. We really miss you guys.
Yes, we miss you guys a lot. So we hope to see you soon, and and we're glad that you're doing some work for us and listening to these stories at home.
And we're glad that you've joined us. Thank you so much. Bye, first grade.
Bye.